There is a strange moment that happens with money. It usually doesn't happen when you get your first paycheck. It doesn't happen when you buy your first nice phone. It doesn't even happen when you finally get a job that pays more than your old one. For a lot of people, the real shift happens when they look at their bank account one day and see a number they have never seen before. $10,000. Not $900. Not $2,300. Not I think I can survive until next Friday. But $10,000. And the weird thing is, that number is not enough to make you rich. It is not enough to quit your job. It is not enough to buy freedom forever. But somehow, everything starts to feel different. The world feels less threatening. Emergencies feel smaller. Your boss feels slightly less powerful. Your decisions feel calmer. And for the first time, money stops being just something you chase and starts becoming something that protects you. But here is the part most people never understand. The first $10,000 does not just change your bank account. It changes your brain. Because before you have money saved, every problem feels urgent. A flat tire feels like a crisis. A medical bill feels like a disaster. A delayed paycheck feels like the end of the world. You are not just living life. You are constantly reacting to life. And when you are always reacting, it is almost impossible to build wealth. Because wealth is not built by panic. Wealth is built by patience. And patience is almost impossible when you are broke. Think about two people. Same age, same salary, same city, same bills. One has $87 in their account. The other has $10,000 saved. Now imagine both of them have a bad Monday. Their car breaks down. The repair costs $740. For the person with $87, this is not just a car problem. This is a rent problem, a work problem, a credit card problem, a stress problem. They might have to borrow money. They might miss another bill. They might take a payday loan. They might put the repair on a credit card and carry the balance for months. One problem becomes 5 problems. But for the person with $10,000, it is still annoying. Nobody enjoys paying $740 for a car repair. But it does not destroy their life. They pay it. They move on. Same emergency. Same cost. Completely different emotional experience. That is what your first $10,000 does. It creates space between you and chaos. And that space is powerful. Most people think the goal of saving money is just to have more money. But that is only the surface. The deeper goal is to buy breathing room. Because when you do not have breathing room, you make different decisions. You say yes to things you should say no to. You stay in jobs you hate because you cannot afford a gap. You accept bad deals because you need money immediately. You buy cheap things that break quickly because you cannot afford the better version. You use debt because waiting is not an option. And slowly, being broke becomes expensive. This is one of the most unfair parts of money. When you have no money, everything costs more. If you cannot pay cash, you pay interest. If you cannot buy quality, you replace things more often. If you cannot take time to compare prices, you grab whatever is available. If you cannot miss work, you ignore health problems until they become expensive. If you cannot handle one emergency, you borrow. And the next emergency becomes even harder. Being broke is not just having less money. Being broke is living with fewer options. And $10,000 is usually the first amount where options start to appear. Not unlimited options, but enough options to feel the difference. You can fix your car without panic. You can leave a toxic job without becoming homeless next week. You can take advantage of a good opportunity. You can invest without feeling like every dollar is your last dollar. You can sleep differently, and that part matters more than people think. Because money is emotional before it is mathematical. On paper, personal finance looks simple. Spend less than you make. Save the difference. Invest early. Avoid bad debt. Build assets. But real life is not lived on paper. Real life is lived when your friends invite you out and you do not want to feel left behind. Real life is lived when your phone is old and everyone else has the new one. Real life is lived when you are tired, stressed, hungry, lonely, bored, or scared. And in those moments, money decisions are not logical. They are emotional. People do not overspend just because they are bad at math. They overspend because spending can feel like control. It can feel like comfort. It can feel like status. It can feel like a small reward after a hard week. And when life feels unstable, small pleasures feel more important. That is why saving your first $10,000 is not only about discipline, it is about identity. You begin to see yourself differently. Before, you may think, I'm just not good with money. Or, I always end up broke. Or, saving is impossible for people like me. But once you build your first $10,000, something changes. You now have proof. Proof that you can control your behavior. Proof that your future does not have to look like your past. Proof that money does not have to disappear every time it enters your account. And proof is stronger than motivation. Motivation comes and goes. Proof stays. This is why the first $10,000 often matters more than the next $10,000. Going from $0 to $10,000 changes how you see yourself. Going from $10,000 to $20,000 is mostly repetition. The first one teaches you that it is possible. The second one teaches you that it is a system. And this is where most people get stuck. They think saving money is about one big dramatic change. They imagine they need a huge raise, a perfect side hustle, a lucky investment, a secret strategy. But most first $10,000 stories are boring. Very boring. It is usually someone keeping their old car longer, not upgrading their apartment immediately, cooking more meals at home, waiting before buying things, paying themselves first, avoiding 1 or 2 bad monthly payments, selling stuff they do not use, working a little extra for a season, doing the same basic things over and over until the number finally grows. And that is the problem. Boring works. But boring does not feel exciting. A new car feels exciting. A vacation feels exciting. A package at the door feels exciting. A bigger apartment feels exciting. Watching your savings go from $4,200 to $4,600 does not feel exciting. At least not at first, but eventually, boring becomes addictive. Because you start noticing something. Every extra dollar saved feels like a tiny piece of your future coming back to you. At $1,000, you feel a little safer. At $3,000, you start to breathe. At $5,000, emergencies feel less scary. At $7,000, you start to believe this is real. And at $10,000, you realize something powerful. Money sitting quietly in your account can be louder than any luxury purchase. Because nobody may notice it, nobody may compliment it, nobody may like it, share it, or ask where you got it. But you feel it. You feel it when a bill comes. You feel it when your job gets stressful. You feel it when your car makes a weird noise. You feel it when everyone else is panicking and you are calm. That is the hidden flex. Calm. Not looking rich. Not impressing strangers. Not pretending your life is more expensive than it is. Just calm. And calm is underrated because it does not show up well on social media. You cannot easily post a picture of financial peace. You cannot flex avoided stress. You cannot show people the debt you did not take. You cannot take a selfie with the emergency you handled quietly. But those invisible wins are what build wealth. Most people lose money in loud ways. Expensive cars, lifestyle upgrades, impulse purchases, bad debt, trying to keep up. But many wealthy people win in quiet ways. They avoid unnecessary payments. They keep cash available. They invest consistently. They let time work. They do not need every dollar to prove something. That is one of the biggest differences between people who build wealth and people who only look wealthy. Looking wealthy is about appearance. Building wealth is about control. And your first $10,000 is often your first real taste of control. But there is a danger here too. Because once someone reaches $10,000, they can make one of two choices. They can treat it like a finish line. Or they can treat it like a foundation. If they treat it like a finish line, they think, I finally made it. I deserve to spend. And to be fair, they probably do deserve something. Saving $10,000 is not easy, but if they spend it all just to reward themselves, they go right back to zero. And zero has gravity. Zero pulls you back into panic. Zero makes emergencies feel big again. Zero makes debt tempting again. Zero makes your employer feel like your only lifeline again. So the smarter move is to treat $10,000 like a floor, not money you are trying to spend, a floor you are trying not to fall below, because the real power is not hitting $10,000 once. The real power is becoming the kind of person who can keep it. That is a different skill. Making money is one skill. Saving money is another skill. Keeping money is another skill. Growing money is another skill. And most people skip steps. They want to grow money before they learn to keep money. They want passive income before they have financial stability. They want investing returns before they have an emergency fund. They want freedom before they build the habits freedom requires. But wealth has stages. The first stage is survival. Can you pay your bills? Can you get through the month? Can you avoid falling behind? The second stage is stability. Can you handle surprises? Can you stop depending on perfect conditions? Can you avoid panic debt? The third stage is growth. Can you invest? Can you buy assets? Can you let money work over time? Your first $10,000 is usually the bridge between survival and stability. It does not make you financially free, but it helps you stop being financially fragile. And that matters, because fragile people cannot take advantage of time. Investing is a perfect example. People often hear things like, if you invested this much every month, you could become a millionaire. And mathematically, that might be true. But emotionally, it does not work if your life is unstable. Because when the market drops, a person with no savings panics. When an emergency happens, they sell investments at the worst time. When money gets tight, they stop investing completely. Not because they are stupid, because they are vulnerable. But when you have a cash cushion, you can think longer term. You do not need your investments to save you next Friday. You can let them grow. You can survive market dips. You can make decisions from patience instead of fear. This is why a strong foundation often matters more than a perfect investment strategy. A person with simple investments and good habits can beat a person with advanced strategies and no discipline. Because wealth is not just about what you know, it is about what you can keep doing. And $10,000 helps you keep doing the right things when life gets messy. Now, some people hear this and think, that sounds nice, but I can barely save $100. And that is real. For many people, saving $10,000 feels impossible. Rent is high. Food is expensive. Cars cost more. Debt payments are everywhere. Life is not cheap. But the point of $10,000 is not to shame anyone. The point is to understand what the number represents. It represents margin, a gap between what comes in and what goes out. Because without a gap, wealth has nowhere to grow. If every dollar is already claimed before it arrives, your financial life becomes a conveyor belt. Money comes in, money goes out, money comes in, money goes out. Years pass, income rises, bills rise, and somehow nothing changes. This is lifestyle creep. It is one of the quietest traps in personal finance. You earn more, so you spend more. You get a raise, so you upgrade your car. You get a bonus, so you upgrade your phone. You make more money, so your normal becomes more expensive. And because it happens slowly, you do not feel like you are making one huge mistake. You feel like you are just living better. But if your lifestyle grows at the same speed as your income, your wealth never catches up. You can make $40,000 and be broke. You can make $80,000 and be broke. You can make $150,000 and still feel trapped. Because broke is not only an income level. Broke is when your money has no room to stay. That is why the first $10,000 is such an important test. It asks a simple question. Can you let money remain yours? Not for one day. Not until the weekend. Not until a sale starts. But long enough to build strength. And once you can do that, everything changes. You stop seeing money only as spending power. You start seeing it as decision power. Spending power says, what can I buy today? Decision power says, what choices can this protect tomorrow? That is a huge mental shift. Because most advertising is designed to make you think of money as spending power. Everywhere you look, someone is trying to turn your money into their revenue. A better car, a better phone, a better outfit, a better trip, a better lifestyle. And none of those things are automatically bad. Money is meant to be enjoyed too. But if you spend every dollar trying to feel better today, you may accidentally make tomorrow more stressful. The goal is not to become cheap. The goal is to become intentional. There is a difference. Cheap means you are afraid to spend. Intentional means you know why you are spending. Cheap says no to everything. Intentional says yes to the right things. Saving your first $10,000 teaches this because you cannot reach it without choosing. You choose between temporary excitement and long-term peace. You choose between looking successful and becoming stable. You choose between spending automatically and spending consciously. And the more you choose, the stronger that financial muscle gets. At first, saving feels like restriction. Later, it starts feeling like self-respect. Because you are no longer abandoning your future self, you are protecting them. Your future self is the person who has to deal with the choices you make today. When you take on a payment, your future self pays it. When you avoid saving, your future self handles the emergency. When you invest early, your future self receives the benefit. When you build $10,000, your future self gets options. And that is the real lesson. Your first $10,000 is not magic because of the number. It is magic because of what it proves. It proves you can create a gap. It proves you can delay gratification. It proves you can survive without spending every dollar. It proves you can build a base. It proves you can make money obey a plan instead of letting every impulse control it. And once you prove that, bigger goals become less mysterious. $100,000 is not some fantasy number anymore. It is just the next mountain. Investing is not something only rich people do. It is the next step after stability. Passive income is not a dream. It is what happens when saved money becomes invested money, and invested money starts producing more money. But it starts with that first serious cushion, that first quiet pile of money that does not need to impress anyone. So what should someone actually do differently? First, stop thinking of savings as leftover money. Leftover money usually disappears. Instead, treat saving like a bill you owe your future. When money comes in, move a piece of it before life gets a chance to eat it. Second, protect your first $10,000 from your own emotions. Do not keep it mentally available for every random want. Give it a job. Call it your emergency fund, your freedom fund, your sleep-at-night fund. Whatever makes you respect it. Third, avoid building new monthly payments while you are trying to build your foundation. Monthly payments are dangerous because they make expensive things feel small. A $600 car payment does not feel like a $30,000 decision. It feels like $600. But that $600 could have been your savings, your investments, your breathing room, your way out. Fourth, understand that slow progress is still progress. Saving $50 matters. Saving $100 matters. Saving $250 matters. The number grows slowly, then suddenly. Not because magic happens, but because your identity changes while you build it. You become someone who pays attention, someone who plans, someone who pauses, someone who does not need to spend every dollar to feel okay. And finally, remember that the first $10,000 is not there to make you feel rich. It is there to stop you from feeling desperate. That is the real change. Because desperation is expensive. Desperation signs bad contracts. Desperation takes terrible loans. Desperation stays in bad situations. Desperation sells good investments too early. Desperation makes short-term choices with long-term consequences. But stability gives you time, and time is where wealth grows. So yes, your first $10,000 might not buy a mansion. It might not get applause. It might not make your life look different from the outside. But inside, something changed. You stop waking up already behind. You stop treating every surprise like a catastrophe. You stop feeling like money is only something that passes through your hands. For the first time, you feel a little distance between yourself and the edge. And that distance is where better decisions begin. Because the truth is, wealth usually does not start with a Lamborghini. It does not start with a perfect stock pick. It does not start with a viral business idea. For most people, wealth starts much quieter. It starts when you save enough money to stop panicking. It starts when you realize calm is more valuable than looking rich. It starts when you understand that the first $10,000 is not the destination. It is the foundation. And once you have a foundation, you can finally build.